All right, so if you're Generation X or a millennial, this is kind of a throwback to back when TV shows were. Believe it or not, there was a time when TV shows were just silly, fun entertainment. They weren't all this preachy and woke and heavy-handed. So Quantum Leap is canceled, the reboot, because Hollywood vermin, everything they touch, they destroy, and they just look at things, these shows, and they go, oh, humans enjoyed them. So let's find a way to F it in the A and give it monkeypox and AIDS. So the 80s was this whole period of TV was a much simpler time and a better time for TV when you were a kid. And if you're outside the cities in the 80s and even the early 90s, there was a lot of America that had like under a half a dozen channels. I know, and if you're in like LA, that sounds crazy, but believe it or not, that was the case for a lot of America. You had like the four main channels, and that was it. But still, it was a better time. Probably because you asked less of TV shows, but also because they were less preachy. They tried to keep things a little bit more subtle back then. So they were just silly shows without the heavy-handed propaganda from, the thing that makes it kind of so hard to take from these sanctimonious, holier-than-thou, though MTK unrattles the most types, is that they're the same people who, make excuses for Weinstein because he's able to produce good movies, or vacation on islands off the coast of Florida to, drink baby blood or whatever it is they do, and their sacrifices to Moloch. So the point is, you're never going to get shows like this again. This fun shows? No, we're subverting expectations. Yeah, but people expect to be entertained, and they're usually paying for it. This isn't like the old days when the TV was paid for by advertising. This, you're talking about movies or a subscription streaming service, which is probably where a huge percentage of people are watching their stuff now. And I will say, the good thing is that the stuff is becoming so badly unwatchable that it might get people turned off of not just TV and movies, but video games and all of pop culture, so they can, maybe go back to talking to people IRL, which terrifies kids today. The thing is, if you remember this show, it was sort of a grade B classic, like Wings, or that van reminds you of the A-Team. It was crap, but we didn't know any better. But the big thing, A-Team, now that movie, that TV show had the connection between the characters. It's like that chemistry is a huge part of the show. In fact, for kids shows, it's most of the show because the plot doesn't really matter. The big thing is with all these shows is they had charm. If they're able to survive a couple of seasons, it's because there was chemistry between the actors. So here's how the Pavlovian response works now. If the audience sees a remake, then they know it's going to be woke nonsense. Or Knight Rider, the guy who's driving around in some kind of car that talked to him with the little orange light in the front. Because communists believe that people are fun. I don't even remember the point of that. What was it? He just drove around. It was like just basically a detective type of stuff. And then Magnum PI was kind of the same thing. Somebody driving around with a car solving puzzles, I guess. The thing is, the commies believe that people are just cogs in a machine. They never apply this to themselves and their circle. It's this whole Bolshevik found family degeneracy, but it's for you, the cattle debt slaves whose blood they probably drink on those islands. So what this strange, charming, quirky show had was charm, actor chemistry. A show is obviously more than just the story and the plot lines. It's how the actors interact with each other. And it's got to be more than a Larry Fink checklist. And here's the thing, if I'm far enough into this, race as portrayed on screen is a critical part of the story. And to say that is, in quotes, problematic. The left has a problem with ethnicity because they're developmentally disabled, just brainwashed, useful idiot puppets who are probably going to be the first up against the wall. So think of people like plants with hundreds of roots connecting out to different experiences. A tribe is people with interconnected roots. Bullshit Kids thinks that you can cut the plant off, put some root tone on it, mix and match things together, plop it in the soil, and it's going to be the same, except it never is. Those roots take a long time to develop, and blood connections are a key part of those connections. But this is very offensive to the left because they've been brainwashed their whole life by communist schools and media. And actually, he's actually not so much the problem as this other actor is. The thing is, they've been brainwashed to think that somehow in-group preferences are bad for them, but good for everyone else. It doesn't work like that. It's the same for everybody. So you had the original show where the two actors had amazing chemistry together. Or what was the other one? The Fall Guy with the guy drove around in a truck. What a great show that was. Actually, that's I went back and saw some episodes on YouTube. That was a show that held up, where the other ones didn't. But the Fall Guy was kind of interesting. The thing is, chemistry is key, and part of that was that they looked like they belonged together. In fact, the Fall Guy had those two blonde chicks that were I don't know, the sidekicks, but it's not the only reason, because there are mixed relationships that also work on screen as long as they feel organic, which is up to the actors and I guess part of the writing. But things are different now because our puppet masters are so heavy-handed, pushing woke propaganda that if we see anyone non-blonde, then we know it's going to suck. That's how remakes work. When the correlation is like 100%, it's not even it's not like, oh, well, watch it and give it a chance. No, it's not. It's the intermittent chicken experiment, but chicken is trained to click on the lever, but it never gets a reward, so there's no point in clicking on the lever. So when you see this show, it's some kind of Asian guy and a trans character, in case you couldn't tell. And people see that and they go, F it, and we're not going to bother watching. People don't want to see these characters in the current people because the current period, because the show is none of this is in a vacuum. Is what it seems like these people are not so aware of, that all this other stuff, this BLM, Antifa, cancers, is going on around these shows. So people really don't want to be lectured to nowadays. And, like I said, we don't want to be lectured to by people who excuse Weinstein for like 30 years, as long as he was making money. Just the worst people in the industry. Who was that guy? Was it Nickelodeon? What's that guy's name? I forget the guy's name. The foot guy who was in Better Off Dead with Dan Cusack, and he went to run Nickelodeon or something. And people are showing some of those Nickelodeon skits. And I looked at that, and I couldn't even do it for YouTube because, one, is protected content. But some of those skits, you look at that, and you don't Fed post in the comments if you saw some of those things. You go like, how did this pass? Even in the 90s when this was happening, how did it pass even then? It's way, way over the top. I don't know. There's something very evil in Hollywood, and anyway, it's really impossible to talk about without just going right to the ultimate solution, which is Fed post. Anyway, so when you see these kind of cancer, that the casting director and whoever was in charge of pulling the strings on this, they just go down a checklist and they go, okay, well, trans we almost never do, so we'll click on that. We can squeeze that in here. And Asian is kind of underrepresented. Usually we're going to get a black chick is kind of the go-to now. So an Asian guy is out of left field. But they probably felt like, with the whole Little Mermaid type of stuff where they're getting a pox girl for everything. Like they're putting them in everything, and the numbers are just not adding up. It's like, okay, we'll get an Asian guy. It kind of makes me think, well, of the original show in '89 to '93, what percentage of the original show was Asian? People who are watching it, the demographics, like very small amount. So why did you put him in? Oh, because it shouldn't matter. The race doesn't matter. Well, it does matter because you changed it. If it didn't matter, you just leave it alone. It's like, they know it matters. Obviously it matters. It's like, oh, so why don't you race swap him from say an Irish guy who played the role, swap in a Russian, swap in a Swedish, swap in a German. Oh, that doesn't count. Oh, so it's only has to be visibly non-Europeanist. Or the one who is fair skinned can be in there as long as they identify as a trans or something. Yeah, that's how the Saul Alinsky Frankfurt School works. Anyway, when people see trans or Asian, they know what that means, and they didn't watch. And no offense to those two communities, and I'm not just saying that to be nice, but and for these people, it's just a paycheck. But I really doubt that. Like what percentage of the Asian crowd sees an Asian guy in this Quantum Leap and goes, oh, we're going to get on board this show. probably completely ignore it, where they wanted to see the original or they liked the original because it was the original. And I seriously doubt trans might watch just because it's so rare, but it's like, is any of that real? I mean, is it going to be here in a few years? Press F to doubt. So all they had to do was get two characters that looked like the originals. And when I say this to people on Twitter, they have this immediate emotional reaction because they were programmed to not think for themselves. They're programmed to just respond with an ad hominem. I went through the Sam argument a couple weeks ago with people were talking about Star Wars, and I said the show should look, whatever remake they make or streaming shows, it should look like the original 3 movies because those movies set the tone, starting in '77. Whatever the diversity mix had back then, that's what you have to do in the modern shows for people to identify the new Star Wars as connected to the old Star Wars. And actually, some people agreed with me. So I think you are seeing a little bit of a shift to the right for the middle of the ground right is moving right, and I think I don't know if the left is moving even further left. I kind of doubt it. But the bullshit kids just couldn't comprehend leaving something alone as it was created. That many people think diversity and woke heavy-handed messaging, feminism, is all cancer. That many people would be me. It's okay for people to like different things. The issue now is that this new woke Hollywood isn't selling. If you look at the past few Disney movies over the past, 5 or 10 years, they've had a lot of movies that have bombed or kind of broke even. I think The Little Mermaid did $570 million. Sounds like a lot of money until you look at what the budget of the movie was and you realize, oh, that probably just broke even. So people, they connected with the original 2 characters from the show. So Hollywood swaps in an Asian and a trans. Those aren't the original characters. People are not just cogs in a machine. The audience sees that and they just go, oh, get effed. They roll the eyes and there's nothing in it. It's like, no, this doesn't look like whatever the show. I was going to say, for some reason, Saved by the Bell popped in my head. Have they remade that? Like all this stuff from the 90s, 80s and 90s, 90210, or was it 21 Jump Street? Like, I realize it was all crap now, but they're going to remake all that kind of stuff. And it's going to be just as they remade Grease. You probably didn't see it. I saw some of it. I tried to watch some of it. It was, it's just like if this stuff is even in the memory 20 years from now, people are going to look back at this and go, what were they thinking with these horrible, horrible shows? So the audience doesn't even have to bother watching it because, the stuff happens so often that you can prejudge things. And you're never surprised. You're never going to get like remake of Grease. Oh, this is awesome. Oh, no, it's all... Oh, it was Steven Spielberg did it with that Romeo and Juliet. What was that thing called? West Side Story takeoff. Yeah, we're gonna have it in Spanish and English. Oh, okay. Well, the smart thing to do is have subtitles for both when the other language is coming on. That way, like you'd cover both bases, right? And like, no, we're not going to do that. Good luck with that. How well did that $100 million? Well, it lost money. The thing is, they really don't care about money. They're way, way beyond the point of money. So, the Asian and trans are not big draws. They don't bring in the audience. I know, it's shocking to say that. People want the show to look original. And in 1989, if there were trans actors in 89, then they were pretty well undercover and no one was cloned into it. But all you had to do was make the show look and feel like the original. And that's a bridge too far for them. And getting mad at the messenger doesn't change the reality of... I look at the show, it's like, oh, so how's it Saved by the Bell? How's it Quantum Leap? Oh, well, there's some plot. It's like, yeah, but the character interaction was half the show. It's like even, the more I'm thinking about these shows, like, well, can't you write something new? No, they really can't write new things. The only thing they have is bait and switch with name recognition of a show from Millennials and Generation X to try to get them to watch it. Because if they start off some new show and it was a trans character and an Asian and a black over here and maybe a token Russian over there, nobody would watch it. It's only the name recognition. It's why Lord of the Rings has Rings of Power. Because Lord of the Rings was so massively successful. And you think, oh, I'm going to get Lord of the Rings. No, this is Rings of Power. This is Amazon's version of it. I'm sure Wheel of Time was the same. Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time. I didn't see any of that. I just couldn't bring myself to watch that. I think they race swapped everyone there. I don't remember if the books... Thing is, even if the books were Might have had characters from all over. What can I say? Some stuff works in the books, and you just want everyone. I want everyone out of like blonde central casting to look like they could be in a Budweiser Swedish bikini commercial in the 80s. That's what I think would probably sell pretty well. It's weird you don't get that, like, at all. You would think, chasing the money, like one studio is going to come out with a throwback to some kind of characters that looks like they're out of Aryan Central Casting or Nordic or whatever they're called, like, that kind of thing. You would think somebody would come up with that. Don't you think it's weird that nobody has? No studio? Doesn't that strike you as odd? Like, representation. Well, I mean, Northern Europeans want to be represented. How come they're not? How come they're oddly missing? Doesn't that make you scratch your head? Just there's missing. There's just like, oh yeah, hey, Wakanda's over here. Oh, okay, great. Give me an Italian movie with a bunch of Italians in it, a bunch of Cecil folks in there. Oh, here, you want black actors, right? No. Why would you think that? Can we get like some Sophia Loren? I don't think she's Italian, but whatever. I don't know if she is Italian or not. Whatever. At least people who look Italian. To do some period piece. Oh, that's why we're not going to do period pieces. Or if they do, well, hell, they're doing, was it Romeo and Juliet? They're doing Romeo and Juliet. I think I just talked about that with them. Oh, no, you understand. The kings and queens back then were actually like, oh, get fucked. When is this period going to be over? I don't know. We really don't know. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys all next episode.